I'm Isabel Rodriguez. I live in Costa Rica right now. I'm on a business tour right now, so I'm in a hotel and my husband just came. But yeah, I'm super, super honored to be here, to be able to share my story and hopefully some knowledge that somebody can take with them. So as you read in my bio there, I lost my father in a very early age. It was only me, my mom, and my big brother. Uh, my mom, when she lost my father, tried to find love in all different kinds of places, basically. And one thing she did was she was dating a lot. And one of these men that she brought home, his son sexually abused me when I was 5 years old. And that was my first real trauma that really got me emotionally explosive, I would say. I was going from angry to sad, happy in just a second. And that's when in school, as a very young child, they labeled me as ADHD. I was a problem child. But if you would have looked closer, you would have understood that it was something underlying there that was going on that I would have needed help with. And I think today, because this was back in the 90s, right? We didn't have all the knowledge we have today. And I do believe that today we have more knowledge and we look upon children who acts very outrageous or acting upon their emotions a lot, that something could be lying underneath. But fast forward a little bit, when I was 11 years old, my mom met the man of her dreams. And it got very quick. So we moved in after only 3 months. And this is where my real problems started to begin, because moving in with this man was started as a dream for me, because I, for the first time, would have had a big family. I didn't have a big family. And now I had 2 stepsisters, and also my mom was struggling financially a lot. So she had 3 jobs. She was never barely home, and I had to take care of myself. So I thought, oh, everything is going to be easier now when we move in with him. But instead he went the other way, and he started to control everything. I remember just putting the minis in the wrong shelf in the refrigerator, and I would be grounded. I couldn't shower more than 10 minutes without him standing outside, knocking the door in. Me and my mom were not allowed to speak quietly together because he was scared that we were going to talk bad about him behind his back, really. And he was an alcoholic, which we didn't know from the start. He was hiding alcohol. So it got to a point where he was drinking every single day, and he got very aggressive when he was drinking, but he was also taking naps. So me and my mom actually took this time out to start talking to each other, tipping on our toes around the house. And I just looked at her once and I said, Mom, do you think this is normal? Do you think other people does this? And she just looked at me like, no, I don't think so, because we were not allowed to eat either. We had certain times when we had to eat. So just going behind his back while he was sleeping, trying to get something to eat or trying to have a relationship. And it got so bad. He was pushing my mom against the wall, throwing things, was very threatening. And it got so bad that he almost killed my mom at one point, and we had to run away for our lives to a women's shelter. And at this point, I'm 14 years old, and you know, it's a very sensitive age. And I just remember I was so sad. I was so angry because we had to run away to a women's shelter. I couldn't go to school. I didn't have clothes. I didn't have my furniture. We didn't have anything. We had to start from scratch while he was a free man on the other side doing whatever he wanted, but we needed to hide. And I needed to, you know, go to school, but I couldn't. So I got far behind in school, and everything was affected because of this. And not only that, the relationship with my mother as well. It took years to build that relationship up. My mom was not my mother anymore. She couldn't take care of herself, and she couldn't definitely take care of me, which led me to use drugs, use alcohol, and went into the same spiral basically as her. As you mentioned, my first boyfriend was also an abuser. So we got to a point where I was using drugs heavily. I had an eating disorder as well. I had anorexia. So I talk about this subject a lot because it's not only about the abuse, it's not only about what you have been through, it's about also the time afterwards. It's the consequences of your trauma. And that affects everyone in a different way, but usually it's trying to hide from your emotions, trying to run away. And that's what I did. I didn't want to confront my emotions. I didn't want to face them. I didn't want to feel them. I was running, and I was running for years until I understood that I have some things that I need to deal with, some underlying emotions, some underlying habits, experience that I'm just like putting in a bag and trying to fill up with everything I could come out with, like drugs, alcohol, or even people. And this is something that might not be very knowledgeable about for people, because I got diagnosed with bipolar. That was a wrong diagnosis. I had a lot of unhealed trauma that I needed to do that was manifested as I was diagnosed. Like I had actually a disease that I needed to take medication for. Which today I don't eat medication. I am not bipolar. I don't have manic episodes. I don't have depressions because I've done the work. But back to my story, because me and my mother, after all this happened, we got the chance to share our story and how everything actually happened afterwards, because we have heard stories before about abuse, about horrible things happen to people, but the fight afterwards, we don't really hear about. So we got the chance to tell this through a documentary story. And so we had a film team following us around for 5 whole years. And they got to record my psychology sessions, our sessions, me and my mom fighting, like everything is raw material. And this became very huge in Sweden. This documentary movie, Say Something, which is the name I chose because about speaking up, which I'm going to talk about later, won the Kristallen Award 2017. And because of that movie, I started to really speak out. And that's when my healing journey really began. And I started to realize how many people contacted me and said, hey, I watched your documentary, completely changed my life. Like, thank you so much. I feel less alone. I can relate to this. And I want to know how you got out of it. And, you know, all those kinds of things. So I started to help others in the same situation. But not only that, I raised my voice and I used my voice so I could get in contact with radio shows, TVs, and I got the opportunity to talk to very high up people that I'm calling them with a lot of power, the politicians. So I could tell them my experience of being a child in a women's shelter and how it affected me and how it affected me growing up, seeing abuse at home. So now, because of that, it is a lot changing actually this year in Sweden for children who's witnessing violence at home. So what I always want to say is you can change not only yourself and your life and your future, but you can change so many people's lives and impact the community, the society, with your voice, with your story, because we all have a story. As Yvette said before, we all have a story, big, small, crazy, whatever it can be. We all have a unique story that can potentially change somebody else's life or make a huge change in the world. And I will keep fighting for this and keep telling my story over and over again, because I know how powerful it is to share your emotions, your path, to help somebody else's path be less suffering, or help them in a certain way, getting the tools, getting the knowledge. Like I remember 10 years ago when I was a teenager, when I was coming out of this and I woke up in a hospital, I was completely lonely. I had people around me, but it was the wrong people. They couldn't teach me anything. They couldn't make me stop using alcohol or drugs because they were using it as well. So I didn't have a community or anybody who really could help me see what I didn't see. And it was not until I got like a mentor and a coach and I started to study that I really understood my potential and everything I could do. So this is my story. I use my voice. I use everything I have as an experience to try to make the community, the society, or anybody else's life a little bit better just because I'm sharing my knowledge and my experience. So thank you very much for listening.